but I love how if you empower somebody with the information, with the knowledge, with the wisdom, they can arm themselves to know how to approach things. So this is essentially what parents, and even me working with kids, like that's essentially my role, is like instructing and molding their little minds and letting them know, hey, by the way, these are the repercussions for if you choose to go down this road, and
Yeah.
if you want some evidence, look at our neighbors, look at some of our family, look at some, look, it's right there for you. This is what's waiting for you if this is the route you choose, so just be careful
Yeah.
and cautious with how especially for girls, I mean, they're so vulnerable, man. They're so
Ultimate
vulnerable, looking for
ultimately,
validation. And
well, yeah, that's the other thing. It's like that's a whole other conversation. It's like
yeah, yeah,
raising
man,
girls right so that they don't crave that from other people and then give it to people who don't
man,
deserve it, right? Don't treat
seriously,
them right because they're so
yeah,
desperate to be validated and loved. That's awful. And you don't give your kids a chance at all these healthy goals and everything when you are promiscuous and you have sex with a bunch of other people, a bunch of different partners, and leave the opportunity to have kids from multiple partners. You're not giving yourself the best foot forward and the best chance you could to foster a strong home and develop good kids and raise them well and with a nice moral standard and improve society. You're a detriment to society at that point, in my opinion. You know, that might that might get me canceled after everything we've said. That might get me canceled.
get him out of here, delete his account.
But that's my biggest thing. And actually, I had a tweet that like went like not viral, but like really big for me. It's like 70 something likes, 30 something retweets or whatever, which for my numbers is pretty big. But it was like there's many a hill I would die on, but the one that I hold like most is like that about 80% of society's problems stem from a lack of fatherhood in the home, right? Whether it's a father that's present but like absent as far as like a leader or emotionally, or just not there at all, it has a huge detriment to the kids, right?
Mm.
So you don't get, and this is for women too, right? Kids need moms just as much as they need dads, but it's you don't give your kids a chance to have a proper upbringing or whatever, like a good raising and good. You start a leg or two back in the race if you're just risking yourself with all these other activities.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. That's it's interesting you bring that up because I was actually thinking of the next 2 weeks or so focusing on different issues and challenges within the Black community on my YouTube channel, and
Yeah,
that was one of the first ones I wanted to address was father absence because I realized how significant just that alone, how much it dismantles the entire family, just removing the father, and so I actually wanted to address that, and I know it's going to be more on the serious side, but
yeah.
I had and I don't know if I've shared too much about my father with you, but I had him up to the age of 13, and he actually passed away because he was battling diabetes and stuff like
Oh,
that. But yeah, but what's fascinating to me is I had him for 13 whole years, and I watched him, even though he never married my mom, and he was living in a separate place. He was like her best friend. He was always there. Every time I called him, he was always on his way, or he was always after he's done with something, he'll be there. Every Christmas, every birthday, he was always there. He was always taking me out, showing me how to drive, all this stuff. And I seen him even drive the church bus at the time at the church we were at, to help the elderly people in the community get to church. And then he would drop them off, and the church, didn't give him money, but they gave him like a plate of food. They would, make food all the time. And but watching that for 13 years, it did something to me. It did something to me. I noticed that I can't say certain things about women because my father never did.
yeah.
I can't do certain things, or go past certain lines because my father never did. Like I just had him for 13 years, and it provided that sort of foundation. So I'm
That's
thinking,
awesome.
like, yeah. So I'm just thinking, like, for example, your daughter, for example, like she's gonna have an amazing childhood because you're here
Well,
to
that's
stay.
that's the
You're gonna be,
goal.
you're gonna write,
God
yeah, yeah,
willing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I just, yeah. So, but I'm just thinking, I just had him for 13 years, and he affected me for the rest of my life. He provided this foundation. Like I understand certain things because, my father did this, my father didn't do this.
Yeah.
And one of the things that influenced me a lot was on his deathbed, and I wasn't present, but I learned that he regretted not marrying my mother. So in my head, marriage is a priority for me. Before
Yeah.
I leave this earth, I will get married. I will
Yeah.
get married.
That's
I
awesome,
will get
dude. That's such a good,
yeah.
like, beautiful story. And I
Right,
know, I
right,
think
right.
you've expressed that, like, he wasn't perfect either. Like, I think you've expressed through the
No,
story. It's
no.
like, no one is,
Yeah.
but the fact that you got that foundation from him in just 13 years is,
Yeah,
telling.
man.
It's telling how
Man.
much kids pick up, And
Seriously, man.
for me, it was always like my mom always spoke my dad of like great praises. She never spoke an ill word about him. And when we would always like he'd pick me up once every other month or so to go see a movie, have some dinner, whatever, right? Hang out
Mhm.
for the weekend. And I loved him. He was my hero, right? And so I saw all these good things about him. I knew all these good things about him. And then but he wasn't there so much, right? And then so I
Yeah.
saw you when I was younger, and you were actually like chivalrous. You were the only other man I came into contact. Well, my grandpa Lolo was like maybe a little bit, but not outwardly, right? He was the father figure in the home at the time that was consistent,
Mhm.
at least. But um, you were the one that came by that was like opening doors for people. Actually, like, because I hear about these things, but I don't see anyone practice it. And you were practicing it. You spoke very respectfully. You almost never cursed. You were very respectful towards women, and you always like opened the door and all this other stuff. And I thought, man, I want to be like James when I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
started
yeah.
dating and stuff. I know I've told you that before.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so that's I think it was interesting, like seeing that, like how much of an impact that had on me alone,
Yeah, yeah.
and where that got me today, and not to say that you have to be that way all the time with women, but always be respectful and everything. But don't be respectful, be chivalrous, don't be a simp. Is basically the goal I'm trying to make here.
Something tells me we're gonna have to address this in a
We
podcast
we
because
might
there's so much
because
to unpack with that,
it's a big topic. Don't get abused. Don't get walked over. Don't be
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
We need to have that
We were
conversation
on
for sure.
fathers and gay marriage and um
He's hopping.
yeah, but no, it's vital, right? The father's role in the home and like a positive male
Absolutely.
role model, right? So I
Absolutely.
appreciate you for being that in my life for what you were, and then also going along this route, right, with positive male role models. Wouldn't it be beneficial then if it's two guys and they're raising some children? Wouldn't that family be great, better off, like, right? If
Devil's
fathers are
advocate. I'm
so
not
important.
devil's
I'm
advocate.
just asking questions here, James. No need to bring Satan into this. You keep me away from Mephistopheles' cloven hooves, all right? I'm just trying to ask some questions.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I mean, it's very obvious that God has obviously created men and women with unique strengths and unique weaknesses. And one of the funniest examples I love to give is, for the typical, I don't know, mom and dad is walking down the street riding with their, I don't know, their son or daughter, maybe son, let's just say son, or maybe daughter, but, she's riding her bicycle. She's 3 or 4, I don't know. And, they topple over, they fall over. And, dad is, if dad is responding first, he's like, oh man, whoa, whoa, are you okay? Okay, let's get up and let's try again. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
Yeah.
And mom will spend maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes pampering the girl or the boy and kissing and are you okay? And let me see what happened. And 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 it's funny because you have some people that would argue, well, the guy has a better understanding, like, pick yourself up, let's go move forward, let's and then the mom is like, well, let's
Coddling.
nurture and so yeah, so some people would say, well, this is actually more appropriate, or maybe this is more, but I would say both are
Oh,
both.
both are absolutely necessary.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And so I just feel like we would be depriving a child of those elements if we decided that we wanted to rewrite marriage or rewrite the guidelines and say, okay, God, yeah, we know that you spoke this world into existence and you created everything, but we got it from here. We got it from here. Yeah, you relax.
You take a load off, buddy. You've done great. We appreciate you. We'll take it from here. We'll take it from here, pal.
Yeah,
Why
go
don't you grab
relax.
yourself a beer, get on the
Yeah.
recliner, right? Turn on some football. We got it, bud.
Yeah, exactly.
God help us. That's
Yeah, yeah,
right. If
right.
we anyway, I really have to use the restroom, so we're gonna take a short break, and we will be right back with more of this topic. Okay, cool. I'll be back. Okay, we're back. Restroom break went good. We're here, and we were talking about two male parents versus like two female and a male, and vice versa. James was bringing up the point. I mean, you guys, it's all going to be cut up, so you guys won't miss any of it. But essentially, what I wanted to bring up was that what about a parent or someone who acknowledges both sides, right? Because obviously, first of all, there's not just effeminate men and then more manly men, but just the concept of like if you come at it from a base of knowledge of like you know what the child needs, right? And you understand that, you try to emulate that role as best you can. You don't think that could work out? Do you think there's still like intrinsically something that would be missing?
Okay, so are you talking about, let's say, for example, there's no father, so the woman or the mother is taking both roles? Is that what you're?
You could say that. In the example I was giving, I would say for these two dad parents,
Okay,
not necessarily one or the other has to be nurturing, the other has to be demeaning, but
okay.
that demeaning is the wrong word. But um, maybe a parent, let's just say, has the foresight of how they want to raise their kid, and they know they need both sides. They're aware of what they need from both. Could they act out both to the best of their abilities?
I mean, we could try, but I believe from a biblical standpoint, I'll so Jeremiah 17:9 says the heart is deceitfully wicked and desperately sick. Who can understand it?
Hmm.
And so the
That's a good one.
idea, yeah, 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 and it's one of those verses I think every Christian should commit to memory because we have the world out here always saying, hey, follow your heart, and so that's our responses. Actually, that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
You follow God's word. You follow God's word, not your heart, because your heart is going to say some very wicked things.
Yeah.
That it, my heart has tried to convince me of some crazy things as well, and it's sometimes it's antithetical to what the Bible is saying. So I think that it's possible for a person to try their best to provide those roles, but ultimately, God's standard and His guideline is already perfection already. That's how it's designed, to have that parent unit. Now, I mean, I don't want to dismiss anyone, regardless of their sexual orientation. I think there are great lessons that a person can teach, but the correct foundation would be, of course, God's foundation, which is, a male and a female. And again, there is absolutely no like design that is greater than that, and I think that just because we, to some extent, are accustomed to either either single parents or parents that decide to adopt another sexual orientation, it doesn't mean that God's standard doesn't work or it's not the objective standard. So I think it's just something to keep in mind. So yeah, I mean, but even for Dave Rubin, I think he's a very intelligent guy. I mean, been thinking about getting one of his, I think his last book. So very intelligent, and it's funny because like he's always been for years a libertarian, but Candace Owens has sort of convinced him to go over to conservative, which he identifies as conservative now. And but however, a part of my understanding as a conservative is having the Bible as the foundation to conserve these values. So when it comes to his sexual orientation or even the adoption thing, like I don't know how does that align? Um,
Yeah.
because from a biblical standpoint, it's going against what God has already designed.
No, I get what you're saying. I think there is something that's intrinsically always missing there, right? And even biologically, right? It's just straight up, the man can't breastfeed the child and all that, right? Um, so there is that, but I also think like non-physical means, like you said, other things matter as well, like the sternness versus the nurturing aspect. But even like I've found, this might be anecdotal, whatever, my personal experience,
Mhm.
but my wife is so much more eager to cuddle and hold our baby daughter like all
Yeah,
day, even,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where and I love her too, and I'm telling you, it's like the biggest joy in the world. If you're having a bad day, you just instant joy. You just hold that little
yeah,
baby.
yeah. You hold her, and that's it.
But I will elect to put her down more often, and not that I can't, if I need to, I can. But it's like I'm just like, okay, I'm holding her. I love my little baby, and I'll play with her and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I will just put her
Yeah.
down. And the joke is that like, oh, when Tim watches her, like he just puts her down, right? He doesn't. But it's also like might become a problem where, and we've seen some of this. We're not sure yet. She's still a little young, but she's starting to not want to go to sleep unless she's like, cuddled up right here, right on the shoulder. So there's
Interesting.
it's a give and take, right? Yeah, it's not just all bad. Like they should learn to self-soothe and stuff. But so I'm always Julie's like, oh, I'm like getting a little. I need to do something. Like, yeah, just put her down. It's okay. You can just right. So I think maybe just intrinsically we have different motives and different things like
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
historically and with ancestry and everything. That's just genetically we
Absolutely.
want to
Absolutely.
act in a certain way, and like my inclination is to like provide and do other things, right? And where hers is like to take care and make sure she's always okay. I
Yes.
can sleep through the minor, like not if she's crying, but if she's like struggling, self-soothing a little bit and like whining a little bit, I can sleep through that. She
Oh, yeah.
cannot.
Yeah.
And
That's
I'm a light
interesting.
sleeper. I'm typically like all my life I've been typically a light sleeper, but
Interesting.
it's it is
Interesting.
interesting. I'm not sure if that's just us. I got to talk to more dads about it, but
Mhm.
that's what I've found. Not to
That's,
say I
that's
love holding my daughter. I love playing with her, and I need to do that more often. Take breaks from doing my job and providing whatever.
mhm.
Um, and it's this thing of like gender roles and all that. Like I cook most of the meals in our house, right? I just enjoy
Mhm.
cooking and I'll help with the dishes and stuff. My whole thing is like I want first of all, like the idea of servitude, right? Be open to serving your wife and being in the marriage. The biggest thing is like looking out for opportunities to make their life easier and help them and just do things to make them happy, right? And like make my wife's
Amen.
coffee, clean out the
Amen.
coffee maker, make her some coffee, instantly makes her day, right? It's effort in a marriage, right? So like being my whole stance is like she's the mom, she's doing so much already for the kid. What can I do to make her life easier, right? And I guess that's kind of the root of the idea here is like, can someone get away from, I guess, gender roles and perform both or one or the other if necessary, right? And I
Mm.
think we can try, right? But there's definitely intrinsic things that are missing, if
Oh,
not given
absolutely.
the man and the woman. And it's not even, like you said, there's a whole biblical standpoint on it, especially. But, me being a younger Christian, I don't always go to that for everything
Yeah,
or
yeah,
try
yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, no, I totally get you, but no, you bring up a good point, and I think it's good that we address that. But my whole core thing is, your daughter's 5 years old. It's midnight. You guys are sleeping. Somebody charges through your house, kicks your door. You know, your wife is not going to be the first person to get up and go run
Yeah.
towards the. She might go to, you know, your daughter's room, to make sure she's okay, but we all know that's your job. And instinctively, you're not going to have to get a notation to say, hey, by the way, you're the guy. You need to go investigate. It's
Yeah.
something in you that's going to move towards danger.
Well,
You're going to move towards danger instinctively.
yeah. And what I love
Yeah.
about my wife, she's such a sharpshooter. She's so
Uh,
trained.
I was
She would
going to
have a
say that
gun right there. She would be the
they
one.
already read it.
She would.
You know
She
what, Tim?
would.
I got this, Tim.
It's been a while. Mama needs to practice. And my instinct would be to go and just like tackle the guy, physically confront him.
Yeah, well, yeah, of
No
course,
matter
of
what, I'm
course.
not gonna think about things. I'm gonna get my ass shot, and she's just gonna be in the back. Don't worry, I'll save us. Oh, I love that
Yeah,
woman.
it's funny because as I was laying out the scenario, I was thinking, yeah, but she's the she'll handle it a lot
You're laying
quicker.
out the specific
She'll
scenario, but
handle
like,
it.
but
Yeah,
she would though. Love my woman.
I feel so bad for like a criminal trying to go in your house. Like that's gonna be the last house they're gonna be
It's
going in.
not
That's
gonna
not gonna be
work
the
out well
last
for
house.
you. I'm gonna be
I'm
attacking him
right.
with like medieval weaponry, and my wife's gonna be with like a sharpshooting thing. I got two giant wooden swords I got at the Renaissance fair that I'm just gonna.
Hey, there you go. Exactly.
Oh man.
Yeah, but no, it's just I even when I think about the role of a father, I just think it's amazing how especially as you continue to saturate your mind with God's word, and God ministers to you as He's maturing you. It's like second nature. It's like you just naturally know this is my role. I am the protector. I am
Yeah.
the. And protection doesn't always mean standing in front of a bullet. Sometimes it might be, there's a child picking on your daughter, and you need to go to the school and talk to the parents. Like sometimes it's that.
I saw
You
a hilarious video of this dude at a birthday party, right? And he said
know?
this kid
Uh-oh.
had been pushing my daughter over in the bouncy castle for like 10 straight minutes. And so
Oh
it
no.
shows this kid's like on the edge and he just goes up like casually when no one's looking, just like,
No.
yeah, pushes the heck out of the kid and he like flies through the castle.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Definitely that more protector role,
Oh,
you
yeah. Oh
know?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's just it's interesting. And I love how God has designed us to and that's that. I mean, not that I want to go back to the Leah Thomas thing, but that strength that God has given us naturally, that is to protect our communities, our families, our
Yeah.
household, it's not to use to, I don't know, abuse and really rob, women, for example, of their opportunities. This
Yeah.
strength was given with a purpose,
And that's
with a
why it's
purpose.
like counterintuitive to the feminist movement even because it's
Right.
taking all the benefits and the like
Like going backwards, right?
oh,
Don't care. I don't
let us men handle these competitions. You guys can't do it. I'm a woman now and I will be deadlifting 1,000 pounds.
Yes. Yes. It's so sad and I feel for women because it's like, many of them, like first wave feminism, they're trying to fight for rights. And it's like, well, yeah, it's like everything's backwards,
Yeah,
you know? It's crazy. It's really crazy.
for sure. And then
Yeah.
also with like the natural fatherhood different urges and inclinations like I don't know if I've talked about it here but I've definitely tweeted about it or talked to you about it maybe personally but I've never felt a more strong urge to provide and get my life together than when I knew I was going to have a kid when I knew I was getting
Yeah.
married, you know.
Yeah.
A stronger fire has never been lit under my butt, right? I've
Oh, yeah.
always known the path to success, the path, well, not the path to success, but the path to self improvement, what I need to do to be a man and everything. But
Hmm.
I never put such emphasis on it and such like actionable steps and actually taken time to meditate and improve than
Mm.
when, I found out I was going to be the leader of a household.
Yeah.
So it's like this supernatural motivation that came onto me that I was like, I need
Ah,
to get everything done, right? And it's not always lasting, right? It'll come in different bursts, but it was just an awakening to me, you know. It's like
yeah.
okay, time to be a man now. Like I'm done. Was in college, football athlete, everything. I had my fun, I was still a boy for a while, and that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
cool. But it's time to grow up and like take care of things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I love this arc that I'm in, my character arc.
I love that you described that because I have somebody I know, a guy that I'm very close to, and he's in the process of really figuring that out because for him, he's always kind of winged it, as a bachelor, as a person who's
Yep.
kind of hopped here and there, and he might live in Vegas for a year, and he might be out here, and whoever he wants to hang out with on their couch, and now he kind of put himself in this position where he's impregnated a lady that he was seeing, and he's realizing like all that stuff is out the window. Like he understands now. He's actually going through it right now,
Yeah.
and yeah, and unfortunately, he hasn't really provided his family as of right now that foundation to kind of build on, so there can be a household, there can be some type of functioning, so he's actually like working from scratch, and it's just interesting because I can see him almost maturing by the moment because of this situation. And we're 3 months
Yeah.
in, so yeah, about 6 more months we're expecting this child to arrive. And but it's interesting. It's interesting because uh, it's interesting to see his conversation change even with me. Like I can see his priorities are almost being aligned differently. So it's very interesting to see because I've seen him and he was winging it, and now it's like his mind's in a very different place.
Absolutely. Like that's the problem. Like everyone kind of just goes laissez-faire with it, right? Just flows through life and does their own thing, which is a lifestyle. Like people live it. Sure, go ahead. But like ultimately you come to this point where you got to like make some decisions and figure things out, right? If you leave yourself open to that, you don't make a plan, like you have a general idea, but you don't really put effort into becoming that person,
Mm,
you're never going to get results, right? And I
mm,
talk about this a
mm.
lot on Twitter, is where like everyone has a, uh, I guess, a level of like a bullshit meter, right? Like what they'll allow. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
everyone has like how much they'll tolerate with
Mm,
themselves, right?
mm.
If you're getting picked on a lot, like there's a line that after a certain
Yeah,
point you're gonna stand up for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
If
yeah.
you're, just fat and out of shape and you hate the way you look, there's a certain point where you're gonna do something
Mm.
about it. There's only so
So
much in your
true.
life where you'll tolerate it, and then you're actually gonna do something. Everyone's line is different.
Yeah,
Everyone's line
yeah.
is different. No one can tell the other person what theirs is. I can only encourage you to make it sooner than later because life is finite. It is so finite. And you never know when it
Seriously.
can be taken. And until someone close to you is taken like abruptly, you don't understand the abruptness of it. You've shared
Yes.
statistics where like how many people die an hour a day? Like
Yeah, yeah. 150,000 every 24 hours
it's
worldwide.
it's insane.
Every 24 hours. Yeah, man. Seriously.
So
Seriously.
start living the life you want to live. Stop putting it off. You're only hurting yourself. And I said, don't put off the best investment you'll ever make. Right.
Mm, mm.
So follow me on Twitter for more thoughts like that. Link in the description.
Hey,
Uh,
there you go.
but yeah, so with that, it's also I had somewhere I was going with this. Go ahead though. You were talking about.
Oh, yeah, I mean it's just it's interesting because I and even as a bachelor, I know for a fact that in my mind, I want to see these certain movies and TV shows and all this stuff and video games that's coming out soon, but I know for a fact that if I was to start getting into a relationship and then I'm start moving towards marriage, and then and possibly being a father, yeah, that a lot of those things like I can still implement those things in my life, but they take a back seat from
That,
my
yeah,
family.
when you
They
prioritize,
take a
when you
back
sit
seat.
down and like figure out
Yeah.
what's important to you.
Yeah, yeah, and I know myself. I know that I wouldn't have an issue with making these other little additional things take a back seat. It's like yeah, Morbius is cool, but if that's going to hinder me from serving my wife or my child, I can wait until it's on Disney Plus. I can wait. You know.
Sorry, kid, can't pick you up from practice. Morbius just dropped. I'll catch you in 3.
Yeah. you know, but yeah, it's just and it's interesting because even as like I said, a bachelor, I think about this scenario all the time. I mean, I may
Yeah.
be not married, but that could change. And I think about what if the woman has a child already? What if this lady is from I don't know, possibly another country? Let's just say I do go that route. You know, but I am thinking about these different scenarios, like the adjustment and the change. Because for me, I've you've known your wife, for example, for years. For me, like I think about that all the time. It's like, how would that adjustment be? But at least I know, by God's standard, what my role is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
I,
that's
I
something I
yeah, what you were saying was important too. With when I remember what I was going to talk about when we go through life like that, like just not caring in the world, you leave yourself open to mistakes also, right? It's not
yeah,
just about the self improvement part. You have your tolerance for bullshit, yes, but it's also you leave yourself open to these mistakes that you're going to make, and then you're forced to. And everyone matures at a different age, right? Everyone matures as forced to mature, I should say, at some point in their
mm,
lives. And
mm,
some people, when they're younger, they're forced to take care of their siblings or whatever. Whenever you're in that caretaker role, another life you are responsible for, right?
yeah.
Things get a lot more serious.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.